$400 for town expenses, but think of this number, 15,000, 400 to run the town, and 15,000 to pay the just debts of the town. And those were all associated with the Civil War debts. They voted to pay $1 a day for labor on the highway, but double rate in the winter.
Glad we went through that article already.
So here's the other thing, it's really kind of fascinating. So in July of 1869, there was an article put forward in the state legislature to establish state police for certain cases. And that was then sent out to all the towns to vote on. And so in November of 1869, on Tuesday the 9th of November, we had a special town meeting to consider that article. Are you in favor of the act to establish state police in certain cases? And we voted 21 against and 10 in favor, not to have a state police. But there's more to the story. If you go to the state police site, they tell you a little bit of that history. In fact, our vote, 21 to 10 against, was reflected across the state. 2/3 of voters in the state voted against that article. And one might think that it was really about they didn't want to spend the money, state money, sending more money to the state or that kind of thing. But the specific thing that the article called for the state police to do was enforce the liquor laws. And at the local level, no one was enforcing the liquor laws. It was all about having a state agency to enforce the liquor laws, and all the towns said, hell no. So in 1919, so that was 100 years ago, I find it amazing, just 100 years ago, we were still using horses and oxen on the road, and we were paying, quite frankly, more for a horse over 1,000 pounds than we were for a man working on the road. So you got 40 cents an hour for a horse over 1,000 pounds working on the road. And they voted, Rick, you'll get to this, they voted to buy a small road machine called a grader back then. I assume it was a horse-drawn polo guy.
Do we still have it?
And they voted $25 to repair the horse shed. So horses and other farmhands were very much part of it. But this thing, what I also found interesting is I really hadn't seen this before, but the first time they voted 2 women for 2 different terms as trustees of the library, right? So if you think about it, women weren't voting. Women were not allowed to vote. We're now starting to see women getting appointed to positions. And if everybody remember what the 19th Amendment is? Suffrage. Suffrage, that's right. And it was approved finally in 1920. So next year we'll be on the 100th anniversary of women being allowed to vote. Amazing, it was just 100 years ago. All right, so moving on.
All right. Do you think we're any better off?
So as we go forward, a couple people mentioned, please keep the side conversations down as we go forward. We can't hear the people speaking and so forth. So if you have to have a side conversation, just step outside and come back in. All right? So there are some rules to how we all do this. Some are written and explicit, and others are by tradition. For example, by tradition, the break isn't over until the moderator gets a chance to leave. And then another more formal rule is that you, the town meeting, can restrict articles from reconsideration. So for example, you could make a motion to restrict Articles 1 through 6 from reconsideration, so that at no point at time during this session of the town meeting could we go back and change it. If there is a motion for reconsideration, it has to occur a week later with proper notice and so forth. And that's meant to prevent you know, people drift off after they get tired or after their favorite article is done, and you're left with 10 people in the room, and they make a motion to reconsider everything and they change all the votes. So this is and so to do that, they gotta re-notice the meeting and everybody has to come back a week later. So I just mentioned that tool that you have if you are interested. Hearing none, I'm gonna move on with,
Could I give you a 50-year history of me? In about 2 seconds and I'll read.
maybe
First
after.
police cruiser was voted against.
Yeah.
They had a special
All right,
town meeting.
am I right?
They bought it. Look what it's thrown into.
Are we right on Article 7?
Yes.
Right, okay, Article 7. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the budget committee's recommended amount of the sum of $5,000 for culture and recreation operations. The selectmen recommend $5,000. This article does not contain appropriations contained in special or individual articles addressed. Includes beach maintenance of 1,000, children's parties of 3,000, other culture and recreation of 500, and 500 with patriotic flags put up, right? For a total of 5,000. Do I hear a motion to approve the article as read?
I'll make a motion to approve the article as read. Mary Knapp.
And
I'll
a
second
second? A name for second?
Sheila Kuehl,
Okay.
K-U-E.
All right, Joe, anything to say about this?
The only thing we did is last year, I think we went up another 500 for children's parties, from 2,500 to 3,000. Other than that, everything stays the same. Patriotic, we raise 500 every year, but we only spent 364. That's for flags. That we could replace those that go in the poles and such. So, beach maintenance just stays the same.
And Roxanne, anything? No? Okay. Any questions or comments on Article 7? Yes.
I make a motion that we vote on this article as read.
Second. Everybody want to go ahead and vote on it?
Yes.
All right. We're going to vote on Article 7 as read.
But we need a
Article
name.
7.
Second. Randy Town is second. I don't know who was first.
It doesn't matter, don't really.
Don't know
Okay.
second, yeah.
Sorry.
Only the initial.
We're going to move on. So, to see the town to vote to raise and appropriate the budget committee's recommended amount of sum of $5,000 for culture and recreation operations. The selectmen recommended $5,000. This article does not contain appropriations contained in special individual articles addressed. All those in favor of Article 7 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The article carries by voice vote. Article 8, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $400,000 to be placed in the Highway Department Building Capital Reserve Fund, with said funds to come from unassigned fund balance. Majority vote required. This is recommended by the Budget Committee and recommended by the Board of Selectmen. Do I hear a motion to approve the article as read?
I'll make a motion. Mary Knapp.
And second? All right, so, John, you want to talk about this?
Yes, a little short history. Back in the 2005, 6, 7, somewhere in that range, there was some sort of master plan worked up to involve a new highway garage. The fire department was going to move into the old highway garage. And here we are in 2019, and none of that has been accomplished. As recently as this past 2 or 3 months, the selectmen did some investigation, very simplistic, no quotes or anything, just get some idea of what it would cost to build a new highway garage. We came out with a rough idea of about $1.7 million. Included in that was to take some money from the unreserved fund balance to help offset the $1.7 million. We, the selectmen, had a public hearing about this, and to put it politely, we got an earful. There was questions of why we didn't have more accurate quotes. There were questions of what it would take for the fire department to move into the, what would become the old highway garage. Very good questions that we did not have the answers for. Accordingly, the selectmen decided to remove that warrant article from this year's vote. We simply were not ready with enough accurate answers as to what it would cost to move and what it would cost to move the fire department. However, we were still blessed with an unreserved fund balance from last year that we were going to put towards the building. We're now asking, even though we're not building this year, to put the $400,000 into the capital reserve building fund for the highway. This would involve taking a chunk out of our current unreserved fund balance of, I think, 890,000, I believe. So it would still leave a good balance, which the town is required to have a, if you will, a cushion in the event of emergencies. So I don't want to put it all into capital reserve fund, but I would like to put $400,000 in. By the way, the town has already spent well over $100,000 from the capital reserve fund for site work at the yard down here on Ridge Road. All right? So that's just to
Well, it ain't cheap, is it?
clear the trees, stump it, and lay out plans on where the buildings would eventually go, where the drainage goes, roads, and so forth, okay? By the way, this is the same property where the cell tower is going, all right?
Can't do that.
Rick, anything I missed, or am I pretty accurate? All right, thank you.
All right, and Roxanne, did you want to add anything from the budget committee's perspective?
At the time when it was presented, the article was presented to us, the 1.7 million, which the budget committee did not recommend. Along with this article, we did recommend, but I think we have some questions after the public hearing.
Okay. So let's go to questions. Sheila?
It has to do with surplus and this article, but several other articles in regards to surplus. I'm Sheila Kuehl, been a resident here for over 30-something years and raised 3 kids here. A lot of you, like me, are concerned about losing your home because of taxes, and we're getting to that point. My husband's working 2 full-time jobs. I have 5 medical issues, 3 kids I put through, and all have multitudes of student loans. But nonetheless, we want to do the best for our community, and I raised my kids to believe in that. I'm here because I've been noticing over every year, year after year after year, we have articles that we vote on or that are put in these books about surplus and money that we actually as taxpayers have already paid for. And they're putting in as, well, we have this extra money, and I'm not pointing fingers, I'm just saying please consider this. That I think that if there's extra money from taxes that we were already taxed, that we have already paid, I think that it should be a default, that it should automatically go back to the taxpayers and let them get that relief. And then if you need something new and different and more, put it in the articles and let us vote on it when we need to at the time of town meetings. But I have literally seen hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years that with surplus amounts, meaning extra we had already been taxed and raised that we did not use, for whatever purpose is not, it's up to our, distinguished guests here to take care of, but I just feel personally that that's something I wish that we would consider doing as a community, as Middletonians. I think it's time that some of that money just went right back to us, because my taxes are causing me to maybe lose my home after 30-something years of living here. And I think there's a lot of us that are in this situation. I'm sorry, I'm emotional. I love this town. But anyway, I just wanted to share that. And I think that we have a lot of money that's over the years have been spent in this way, where it comes out the next tax year. Well, we have this extra money. No. We paid that money already in taxes, please give it back. Can we please default and make that the issue and put it into our tax pockets, back into our pockets? And that's all I'm asking, if they would consider those kinds of things. It's not specifically just this, it's also school, it's town, it's in all of our articles in both parts. You'll see it all the time, every year. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. And you go here.
Okay, I hate to be the guy to rebuttal on this, but back in, like you said, 2008 or 9, the selectmen, which was myself, John Mamone, and everything, proposed a highway garage out there. At that time, it was $80,000. $800,000, excuse me. Now we're up to $1.7 million. Okay? And we shot it down. And did we shoot it down because I did one of those things of reconsidering? And you guys came in and hollered at the select. Now, sooner or later, we gotta bite the bullet and do it.
Why?
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 Because That's, I don't know. I'll be talking my own
67 is still standing.
You guys take a walk over to that fire department over there, see how close together they're parking those things. Okay? We got equipment out here, they're just sitting out here, it's cost us millions of dollars.
That was all night long.
All right? And it's sitting out there with not gotten any protection. You'll get your turn. But that's what I'm saying. This $400,000, they're paying, that's another thing. I see you and I agree with you, but at the time, we had an individual do exactly the same thing. Put it towards taxes, and it was voted on. And we kept telling people that if you take that money and put it towards taxes, sooner or later, we can't put no more towards taxes. Your taxes will go up the amount that we have not got.
All right.
So that's
Thank you,
the
Ray.
thing.
Okay, yes, Mr. Thomas.
These are very good points you make here. I'm gonna run my mouth once and get the hell out of here. You got it tired of hearing it. Been coming for 50 years, and I see this gonna go up $1.22. It isn't a lot of money. Oh, it goes with it. My tax has gone from $300 to $6,000 a year. I live in a 900 some square foot house. It's illegal because you've got to have 1,000 square foot to live in the damn town. And he said a very good point. We got to bite the bullet sometime. If you look at history, we never do in this country. If you look at the record of depressions, they go up and down. Because nobody will cut the cost before we go broke. That's a fact, proof. You can read the history book. We don't live like that. So all I'm asking you people here, I come and listen to these guys. I listen to the rules they got to go by. It's crazy. How the fuck does you get anybody work that kind of money to do that kind of job? I'll never. But we've got to realize it. Our working day man can't afford to live here. I never able to. I mean, I saved a few $1,000s to retire on. Shit. 1961, $150,000, $20 million. The rate we're spending, it lasts me 5 years. I'm 78, and I ain't gonna be able to work much longer. So I'm gonna get my house up like this young lady. And the only thing I want you to do here, if I have to sell it for a tax cut, the value of it, I want the next person to pay the value of what I had to sell for. Now, several years ago, we went from paying taxes once a year to twice a year. Are we paying once a year?
No.
What happened to that? They got overextended because my wife would give me $1 million, I'd have it spent in 3 minutes. So these reserve funds, and I know what he says. I bit the bullet the whole time. He's exactly right. I want to pay my driveway, it was $300 when I moved here. I finally did it, it was $3,500. But you know something? I had the $3,500.
Yes.
I didn't have the $300.
Yes.
I cost myself by being too conservative. He points that out. What I went to see my road crew for was not to bitch about them getting too much money. They all 3 or 4 of them have run businesses. They know the cost of doing business. When I look at the 4 outfits we have to pay school, this, that, and the other, everybody needs more money. But I'm at the age where you don't get more money. I got a wonderful boss. I'm 78 years old. I work 3 days a week, paid me more than I'm worth. But you get I work flat rate on my way. I'm on flat rate right now, I'm making about $6. You know, that's what my body has done. So that's what I'm here for. Is to stop the daggone spending. It hurts. I voted against the police department because there was no policeman I got here. We had a murder in town. They voted against the state police. The state police officer caught him. So, but it's a cost. I mean, I'm scared of what's coming if we don't control our spending. I'm not scared of anything else. I've always worked my way out of every situation I've been in. I tell my kid, he says, Dad, you don't know what give me the good advice. I give you good advice. I tell you, go to work, find another job. I worked 2 and 3 jobs all my life. I paid $6,000 a year with the taxes. And a daggone house ain't big enough. It's a cracker box. Love it. Hate to go. But I got it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate everybody here.
Here on the stage.
DPW has already made the decision of where this building is gonna go by their clearing the land and everything else, which is fine. We need something in a better situation. I'm just trying to figure out how $1.7 million is going to be spent on a building that is not gonna be, it's gonna house things, it's not gonna have furniture all over the place. That sounds like a very expensive building for something that you're gonna store snow plows and things like that.
Okay, I got a lot of hands up, I'll get to everybody, I'll start back there.
First of all, I did a little bit of digging into tax rates, just so everyone knows how Middleton's compares, if you don't know already. Right now, this past year that we just are finishing up was $27.99 for the tax rate, which you all know. Middleton is the second highest tax rate for the Lakes region. And we are also higher than Dover's tax rate, which is a much larger town, which has a lot more schools and a lot more businesses to help take care of their rates. And we are larger than Rochester, which I have heard some comparison about pay and wage comparisons for those towns. Our nearby towns are a lot lower. Wakefield was $11.26, Alton was $13.99, Wolfboro, which we have a partnership with school, they're $15.80 last year. For our small town, I feel like our tax rate is very burdensome. But I have another question, because this article affects the unassigned fund balance. I don't know when else to ask this question. For 2017, I saw that the balance was $475,357. And then for 2018 in our book, this year it was $400,217. I remember last year at the meeting, we voted to use $40,000 of that unassigned fund balance to finish the kitchen here. But I could not figure out where the other $35,000 was spent, so if someone could tell me that, I would appreciate it.
I'll get to everybody. The answer to your question may be that the fund balance is fluid in terms of how much money is spent during the year, and how much did the selectmen use any of the fund balance in 2018 to reduce the tax rate? No. Okay. So, but what you could report now is that as of the end of December, it's $890,000. Okay. So, go ahead.
Question to your first part of your taxes and surrounding areas, just for the town here alone, there's nothing to county, state, school, not anything. We went from 1057 last year per thousand to 932 this year. So your tax rate has gone down. Okay? So you go 932 per thousand, so your surrounding areas, things like that. You've got two different budgets. You guys don't understand. You've got two different budgets you're working with here. You have the town budget, and then you have the school budget. Okay? We have no influence over the school budget. This is just what we do here, and your tax rate for what the town has to do this year is 932 per thousand. Okay?
All right, I got a bunch of questions. I'm going to Marcia had her hand up. I'll get to everybody. Go ahead.
I understand you were going to ask for 1.7 for a building. You don't have concrete estimates and figures and everything for us to see.
Right.
So I think we ought to just ignore that whole part, right? We don't know what it's gonna
Right.
cost.
Exactly.
You wanna take 400,000 and put it in the capital reserve fund. Is that gonna stay there and then be used to reduce the bond that you asked for to build the building? Or are you going to be spending that before next town meeting, doing some more? I mean, you've already spent 146,000 this year.
On what?
on the
Working on
site.
that land, the site
Yeah,
for the
reserve fund.
non-approved building.
They used 146,000 of the capital reserve fund to get the site ready.
about that.
All right,
Are you going
let's
to
keep
be
it to one person at a time,
Are you
please. Go
gonna
ahead,
be
Mark.
using the 400,000 before next town meeting, or are we going to be able to have that available to reduce the bond that you asked for?
It's my understanding that the site work has been finished, that the next thing that comes up would be the buildings. Of the capital reserve fund money that we had, we're down to $3,900.
Correct.
So it's my intention that if this 400,000 was in the capital reserve, it would be towards getting the building at some point. Will it be at 1.7 million? I don't know.
No, I understand that, but will you be using that for other things?
Right,
Towards the
right.
site.
All done, all the prep work.
So you don't need any, so why do we need to put that money in the capital reserve fund if it's going to be used to reduce the bond?
Right, so
you don't have to pay it
all in 1 year.
hang on, one person at a time. So the question was, what's the logic from the selectmen's standpoint of putting this money in the capital reserve fund this year?
Basically, going forward, to do a building properly like that, we have to have an engineer drawing, that sort of thing. It's not cheap. We don't have the money in the fund balance to do that with. We don't have the money in the operating budget to do that with. So if that 400,000 goes into the capital reserve fund, we can spend out of that fund to next process to see what it's actually going to cost to build a building. And at that point, the 1.7 million dollars was a generic number that came from a couple of people in the
I get that, I get that.
finished in the business. They said you're gonna do this building based on other towns like that for around $1.7 million. But we have no definite answers on the size of the building, what we need, we know what we need in the building, but the size and footprint is one thing. And it's not been put out the bid. They didn't put out the bid. I'm not gonna say it's gonna be 1.7. I like to hope it comes in under.
All right, so Joe, let me just try to anticipate some questions. We had a question about whether this 400,000 would offset a potential bond in the future, or whether it would be spent more near term for more preparation work. And John said no, it would offset the future cost. You just said that it would be spent perhaps in the near term for engineering work. So can we get some clarification from the selectmen what your intention is?
The 400,000 would go into, because we cannot build a building on a fictitious number of 1.7. We don't know what the number is. To get that number going forward, we have to have an engineered design plan.
So
That
you would,
way,
in fact,
so that money would
spend
have
it.
to come out of that $400,000, yes.
You
The
would be
balance of that
spending
number,
part.
right, and the
How
balance
much
of that number would go towards, if we do a bond, or note, whatever it goes to, if it's approved by the taxpayers.
And you have the authority to use all of that money without coming back to the town,
Yes, we do.
should you need to.
That's correct. The town meeting
Which
voted
is
to
why
that
the
effect. So just to clarify,
620.
John, are you in agreement with Joe, or is there a different opinion among the selectmen on that?
I'm making a difference between site work versus the building. When you do engineering plans, blueprints, that's all part of building a building.
Right.
That is different than a bulldozer down there making another catch basin for a water runoff.
No, I appreciate that, but the specific question was, is this going a savings account for later, or are you gonna spend it now pursuing a building today? And I think they deserve an answer to that question.
Some of the price for the building would be spent this year trying to figure out what it would even cost to get an estimate. Okay? We then have to come back to you folks for a yes or no vote on building the building.
Okay, there are a lot of hands up. Roxanne, you want to come in?
Yeah, so I guess my opinion is that currently, I went to the public hearing that they had regarding the building, the highway building down here. There were a lot of unanswered questions, and what it kind of came across to is that we needed basically we needed a public safety building, because it was presented as, we need a new highway department because we need to move the ambulance and fire departments over here. That was the way I interpreted it, and other people were there. And I get that. However, so maybe we should consider a new public safety building. I'm just saying, it's for everybody to determine that and discuss that. But if we put the $400,000 into this warrant article, into the capital reserve fund, it can only be earmarked for a highway department building. And if the townspeople decide that they want a public safety building, that money would not be able to be spent on that. Is that correct, Jack? Right.
Well, you would have to redo it, and you would have to warn redoing it. You couldn't do that today.
So I think
On the warrant next year.
everybody needs to know all the information that's out there and make the decision of what the town needs and to take into consideration all moving parts, whether that's the highway department, that's the police, the fire, whatever it is. Whatever decision you make is going to have an impact on somebody else, and you should be making all of that decision in one and not saying, well, today we need to get the highway department down there so we can get the EMT and the fire over there, not knowing how much that building's gonna take to get that up to par for them to be in there.
All right,
Just saying.
I'm going to go to our hardworking clerk and give her a chance to speak. She's been writing more than mine. Go ahead.
Okay, so just I kind of think to pull all this together, what seems to keep coming up as the question is the 400,000 you said would go toward the engineering plan, you know, getting these numbers that we need. But then the extra money could either be put aside for this building that's not yet been approved, or could then go towards additional expenses to get started on it if you decide to move forward before the next year meeting. How much is the estimated cost for the engineering reports and such that you need to find out what it would cost versus how much would just be extra money that could then be used however, once you got that report back?
I do not have an answer.
Because that's a lot of money to say that here's, you know, let's say the engineering report, and I'm just using our numbers because I have not the slightest idea, you know, 20 grand, you know, just because it's easy to use. That's 380 then, that you can get started on the work before anybody then can chime in on whether that estimate is what they want to move forward with.
Correct.
You know, and that's a lot of work to then be able, if you did use it, not saying either way, that's a lot of work that could get put in, and then if the town says, no, we don't want that, that work could potentially be wasted money that could have then gone to the alternative that they decided to go with instead, is kind of what I'm hearing.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go over here. We'll get to everybody.
Joanne Koski, I go to a lot of selectmen's meetings. I'm not really a longtime resident, but we've been involved in a lot of the town activities. You voted for these three men. You elected them to choose how to spend your money. If they get that $400,000 and they have to use some of it to prepare for building that highway barn, then I would assume that they're going to make responsible decisions on how to do so. And I think Rick would be the first one to agree with me that a highway barn is not a garage. They do an awful lot of work in that barn. Take a look at some of the equipment that they use that's antiquated. They fix those plow blades, they do transmission work, they change oil, they fix all kinds of parts and things on those trucks. You need exhaust systems. If you're going to close that barn door with your engine running in there, you better have an exhaust system. And what do you do about washing up afterwards? You want to take those greasy clothes and stick them in your wife's washing machine? Not in my house, you're not. Okay, so that's an awful lot more than just a garage. There's an awful lot of money that goes into building it. And yeah, we should have built it back when it cost $800,000. We didn't. We might not build it next year when it costs $1 million plus.
Because it's too much money.
If we don't, the next year after that, it's liable to cost $3 million. So all I'm saying is that I think we elected these men to make responsible decisions. The budget committee agrees that this is a possibility, that this might be a good thing to do. It's up to you to make the right decision.
All right, thank you. We go over here.
Got a couple of questions. We're saying we need the town garage because we don't have the room for the fire department. We had a problem with Danny Kremens with a right-of-way, so we didn't have the room to make the building bigger. town, as far as I know, gave Danny a different right of way, so now we have all this land. So why don't we just expend the building, $100 grand, and then we won't have to go through all this other stuff. The other question was, on the building, every year we vote it down, but you keep putting more stuff into that. You put the well, and then you did the site work, and then you did this. We
Yeah.
already said we don't want the building.
Yeah.
Let's put that. Respond to any of that at all? Being a select for 6 years, I never heard anybody say not the building yet, they just haven't voted to do the whole project.
We voted down the
The money was put in the capital reserve fund by the people who voted here. The money didn't get there just because we put it there, it was voted on by the taxpayers. So not everybody agreed with that amount you just gave. And on top of the whole thing had about the highway garage and why we're focused on that. It's not because we just want to put it down there. This has been going on long before I moved in this town. It's always been talked about putting highway garage down on Ridge Road.
Can't afford it.
I'm just saying that, so that's why that's why we're focused.
Thank you. Go back to Mrs.
But
Taylor.
every year I vote it down, they
All right.
they keep doing more.
Hang on,
Now they want to, didn't we just vote it down? They
Hang-
want to go put money in.
come on, let's go back to Mrs. Taylor.
That's the same.
Okay. Let's keep it quiet so we can hear people who recognize. Thank you.
Ask another question about the $35,000 in the town cost. Isn't that what you put into the highway garage for the roof and the insulation and stuff? No. Didn't we take that out of the, not out of the capital reserve, didn't we take that out of the fund balance?
A couple of years ago.
Right, but I mean, it was $35,000.
$60,000.
Huh?
It was over $60,000.
Oh, okay.
All right, who's been trying to get my attention? All right, Roger behind you, behind Roger, right.
I too was at the public meeting. I stated this at the public meeting. It sounded like a sell for a new fire department. More than half of that meeting was on we need to get the fire department out of the fire department. So I'm curious as to why you not only knocked down the warrant article, but why didn't you knock this one down? Because a lot of the people there were talking about combining new buildings. So this money would not go to a combined building.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
Sarah, it's nice to have a wish list of what you'd like to build. The only thing is, I think first of all, you need an engineering analysis of how much this building is gonna cost us.
And that costs me
And
a lot of
if
people.
you can't give us that, I don't think we should give $400,000 because what can you build afterwards?
$135,000
If it needs to spend the money for an engineering.
Quiet, please.
We should spend it.
Please.
Thank you.
Go ahead. All right, Roger, you had your hand up?
Yeah, his thing, that's why they want the $400,000 in that thing, so they can take some of that money and get an engineering firm, get us all a good price on what it's gonna cost for this thing. So next year when they come, they have figures, and they have a building to show you, and they have that. That's what I did for the 800,000. The other thing, remember, that tower, I have a tower down here. You're making money off that tower, which is paying for that building. Yes, it is. There was a warrant article. There was a warrant article that I put in that says that tower will pay for the building. Part of it, it ain't paying for all of it.
How much?
Also, there's another tower that we have
figure?
in the process of being built, which will make more money on. So you still have an opportunity.
All right, I'm gonna start up on the stage, and then we'll go from there. Go ahead.
Can the money for the engineering plan be taken out of the fund without actually having, out of our general fund, if you will, and there may be another name for that, without actually earmarking $400,000?
Right.
That way they can get their plans done and come back to us next year with, you know, earmark
So
$400,000.
procedurally, the selectmen can spend money that you authorize them to spend through warrant articles. They can spend money in capital reserve funds for purposes specific to those funds because you authorized them to do so. So if you wanted to, for example, authorize them to spend money on an engineering study of some kind, but not 400,000, you could amend this article to some lower amount, still take it from the unreserved fund balance, and under the understanding that that's what they would be doing.
And then my follow-up comment with that is, from what I'm hearing, and I need to go to the meeting, so I may be out of line here, but what I'm hearing is the basis behind the push behind the highway department was because of the fire department and the needs of the town. Having worked in the local community next door, they built a safety complex, beautiful building, 2.3 million. When you're talking big numbers like that, that's not a whole lot more than 1.7 for a highway department. Would it be more fiscal for us to build this small, because we don't need a safety complex like they have, which would be much smaller, and then do a full expansion on our current highway department? I think if you actually compare those numbers, you'd actually see a significant cost difference to the town, and you would accommodate a lot more and accommodate a lot more of our facilities here in the community.
All right, I'm going to go to Roxanne, and I'll go over to John.
So what I was saying before is we need to take a look at everything, the public safety building, the highway department, whatever. But I make a motion to change that amount from $400,000 to $100,000.
I second that.
Okay, so I have a motion to amend Article 8 by reducing the 400,000 amount to be taken from the fund balance to, what is it, 100,000? 100,000, and I had a second. Who seconded? Bonnie Gagnon, second.
No. The warrant article has to be used, the money has to be used specifically for what the warrant article says, and that's in the highway building. The warrant article is very specific on how the money needs to be spent. So if it says highway building, that's where the money gets spent. There is a warrant article further down for the for the fire department, an addition that you could put money into. And I'm not sure if that would go towards a new building or if it has to be addition specific. I don't know.
Well, so you've given us a proposed amendment. It's been seconded. So I have comments or questions about the amendment. About the amendment. Not general comments about the article, but about the amendment. I'm going to go there, and I'll go to John.
If we're doing 100,000, correct? My understanding is you already have 309,000 left already in the reserve. Why do we have to do any to get
$3,000.
$3,900 left.
Right. So let's
3,900. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So how much do you need for that
Mr.
information?
Sisdor.
Oh, yeah. My only concern is it's still the train leaving the station before the voters have really determined.
Absolutely.
I mean, even with 100,000, that's my concern, and I really respect that. It's a great move in the right direction. My concern, and I've expressed it for years now, is once we start spending money in a certain direction, the train leaves the station, and we're presented with, okay, now we've spent 430 something at some point, and it would be stupid for us to throw that money into a hole. It's the way that towns work. It's the way it's done, and I don't like it.
Okay, John, go ahead.
I'd like to address this question of whether the town has voted for a new highway garage or not. As your selectman a few years ago, I looked at the fund balance for the highway department building. I heard the same sentiment about, well, do we really need a new building? I submitted a petition to alter the use of the capital reserve fund for a new building to one of repairing the existing highway garage right next to us. In short, I was thoroughly shot down. Very definitely I was told we need a new highway garage. So for those of you that say we never voted on it, I tried a few years ago to change this intent and it was thoroughly shot down. Clearly the word then was you want a highway garage. The second item that hasn't been brought up yet, but it could, whether we want to bring it up or not, is salt shed. Salt shed that's there has been repaired. It is standing. If you decide not to ever move the highway garage, What do you do with the salt shed when it falls down?
Put a dome over it.
Good.
Like a lot of other.
Okay.
Where?
All right.
Right where it is.
So let's talk about this article. I had John Quinn up on the stage.
I'd like to hear from the police, the fire, and the highway department directors. They've been making do for years, just like residents have been making do. How much longer can we make do? I mean, we need
A long time.
We're past that.
We have a timeline from the expert.
All right, so just a reminder, we're still on the amendment, right? We have to deal with the amendment before we go back to general discussion, all right?
Still on eight.
So, is there anything that you guys have to say regarding the amendment, going from 400 to 100? Other questions regarding the amendment? Yeah.
If we're gonna reduce it to 100,000, that means they're still gonna use the money to do a survey. We don't want the building, why don't we just make it to 0 and then stop putting money
I
in the
need
building?
everybody to not have conversations, but someone's recognized to speak.
Repeat, that was a
Please.
good point.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'd like to alter hers to 100,000 to 0, so there is no money to try to do a survey for a building that we can't afford right now. We don't have the,
So let's deal with this amendment,
that's what
and then we'll go to, if there's another
I'm
amendment.
saying put it to 0, not 100,000.
Well, if she wants to amend her amendment, it's fine, otherwise, we're gonna take a vote on her amendment when we get done talking about it, and then somebody can make it another amendment, all right? That might be the cleaner way to do it. So there's an amendment on the floor to change Article 8 from 400,000 to 100,000, with the purpose remaining the same.
No. No.
Are you ready to vote on that?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor of amending Article 8 by changing the amount to be placed in the Highway Building Capital Reserve Fund with, from $400,000 to $100,000, signify by saying aye if you are in favor. All those opposed?
Nay.
Hey, hey, hey.
The amendment does not carry. So we're back to discussing Article 8 in general.
Move the article.
No,
There were some other questions and so forth, so.
Amend.
I want to amend the article.
So I have another amendment. What's your amendment?
I want to make it to 0 instead of $100,000.
Oh, instead of
Right, so that's
400,000.
one way to do it. The other way to do it is simply to vote against the article.
Let's vote against the article.
Then it won't be done as soon.
It would be cleaner to simply vote against the article.
Okay.
But then what happens to the 400,000?
Then you have to bring it up
The
again.
fund balance.
Okay, I will say, just so everybody understands, the selectmen do have the option of using some of the fund balance to reduce the tax burden when it comes to setting the tax rate. That's a decision they make in conjunction with DRA come November, when the expenses of their town are closer to being set and so forth. So they have that option come next fall. That's their decision to make at the time.
And they didn't make that.
All right, Mr. Gary.
Trying to assemble all the thoughts in my head, because quite frankly, my head's about ready to explode. I want to back up to the charrette we did. It wasn't, I just want to clarify, it wasn't a master plan, we did a charrette, and what that was through the New Hampshire State Planning Office when it existed. And what they did is they looked at the community, a lot of people participated in it, we all talked, we visited, I think Jack, you were pretty influential in that as well. And what they did is they brought in architects, civil engineers, designers, and it cost us like $5,000. It wasn't a master plan. It was a charrette. It was a conceptual way to reorganize the town and get more fluid, get the operations working better. And that's what the community accepted it in concept. In my opinion, the community has also accepted in concept to build a highway garage at some point. It's not, it didn't say we're going to do it now. They didn't approve a plan, they didn't approve a design. But in concept, there's always been discussion of moving the highway garage down the street. And I think that's where we are today by the mere fact that we do have a capital reserve fund in place and it's been expended.
My big concern right now is, and I'm going to speak because this is kind of in my profession. I work for an engineering firm. We do civil, structural, mechanical, plumbing, fire protection, and numerous things. And we work for architects. My concern right now is that I understand that we've had civil drawings put together, civil engineer drawings, meaning that they've been signed and stamped, bonafide, and we've executed work with them. Generally speaking, that doesn't occur, a final drawing, until in hand you align it with your architectural design of the building. So I feel like we may be a little bit at risk already of what we've already constructed, because I'm not 100% sure we're aligned with the building we haven't designed yet, and meaning a stamped set of drawings. What usually happens is you do a conceptual drawing. You move to schematic phase, you move to design development phase, and then you finalize. And what happens during that process, the design team modifies and makes adjustments. And that modification adjustments are based upon the programming and the needs of the community and the departments, and with costs in mind as well, estimates. So when I heard Roxanne put the number out for $100,000, it kind of makes sense, because an AE, architectural engineering firm, will typically charge 9 or 10% fee for total cost of a project. So if the 1.7 was correct, we're talking like $170,000 in fees. But that's for the total project. So schematically, you can do something with a small amount of money to make sure you're getting all the information in based upon what the need is in the town. Sister along with this, the fire department, I think everybody agrees, is completely undersized. I don't feel like there's been a fair assessment on the fire department and what their utilization is and what their needs are. So I feel like we're being really front-ended. I'm going to agree with John that he says, you know, the train has left the train station, because it has. We do have an opportunity at this point, though, to say, let's hold back on going forward with any further construction activities. And I would really recommend that to the selectmen. I know you're allowed to expend as you want, but I would not do that any further. I think we really need to get somebody involved that's a professional, that understands and can listen to and ask the right questions of Rick and other community members that are involved with any infrastructure needs, to find out exactly and precisely what we need and provide a design that meets that need. So, I come from the vantage point of, I believe the highway garage is going to get built someday. But I'm also mindful of, we have a bond that has a balance right now of $5 million for a school building. And I think everybody needs to keep that in mind. Quite frankly, we're pushed into that. We did a whole master discussion behind all that. But I will indicate that during that process, we did a feasibility study. And these are the things that need to occur. We need to think about a feasibility study of some sort. It does not cost huge money. There are firms out there, I mentioned this at the public hearing, that you need to find the right size firm. You don't need to hire Shepley Boltich out of Boston. You can find a right size firm that does this sort of municipal work, that can talk with the community and find out what the needs are. I think we're going way faster financially than we should. I think we need to restrain it a little bit, come up with a real plan.
All right, thank you, Ken. Yes, sir.
David Dufresne here. I've heard several times that a tax rate is going down, and it sounds like a good thing. I was told that this week when I was trying to get it going. But my point to that was, when our tax rate goes down and our valuations go up, the check that we write twice a year is the same or higher. So it's a moot point that they're going down, and it's a number. We spend as taxpayers is the same or higher.
All right, other questions? Yes, Sheila.
I'm really old-fashioned. I'm showing my age, 62 this week. He's saying in plain English to me, and I'm trying to get clarification for my old age here, the Alzheimer's. We're putting the cart before the horse. We don't have things in place. We shouldn't be doing what we're doing because we didn't prepare, we didn't plan, and we didn't get the proper votes. And if I'm crazy or correct, please advise me. We didn't vote for a building that would clearing land for and trying to spend $400,000 on land for, and that we did not approve yet. And that to me is a little bit unusual, and again, cart before the horse. And the bond, everybody has to, you cannot, when you think about the town, you cannot think about the school portion as well, because they do go hand in hand regardless of what you say, because we're the ones paying both together at all times. So if we can get that money put back, selectmen, into the taxes, into the rebate taxes, or to lower our tax rate, amen, go to zero, his recommendation, and put it to zero, and not have it that way, at least for now, until we get things right. That's what we should consider doing.
Okay.
I got one other.
What's the amendment at now?
I got one question.
All right.
Yes, vote on the article. Let's vote. Shut it down.
Can I ask one question?
Are we ready to vote?
I've got one question. I keep hearing comments from people.
One question, yeah.
So I just want to know, I keep hearing, oh, we got people that could do some of this for free. Do we ever ask the town people who here is capable of doing some of this work?
License.
And can we ask, who right here today, if you were asked to help do this for free, would you do it?
All
And
right.
let them stop complaining
Okay.
about it.
I'm going to go ahead and call for a vote on Article 8.
I agree.
What would you like to?
If you take the fund balance, the 400,000, and you offset the taxes this year, what happens to next year's tax rate? It's gonna go out. You can say offset.
Only if you approve the building again.
So that is,
Offset
right.
again.
So that is the art of trying to set the tax rate so we have a consistent expectation of what we'll actually be paying in taxes. And we've seen that on the school side where there was a large amount that was used to offset taxes because that was the best thing to do at the time. And so the taxes were, to a certain extent, artificially lowered, which created some unusual expectations for us the following year. So that's an issue. That's certainly an issue. I actually think the horse is still pulling that grader that was bought in 1990. You're still working with that, aren't you, Rick? Yeah. Okay. All right. Are we ready to vote? Can we go ahead and vote on Article 8? Yes. All right. I'm going to call for a vote on Article 8, which has not been amended. So Article 8 is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $400,000 to be placed in the Highway Department Capital Reserve Fund, with said funds to come from the unassigned fund balance. It was recommended by the Budget Committee and Board of Selectmen, and a majority vote is required. All those in favor of Article 8 as read, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
All right, we're going to raise hands. All those in favor of Article 8 as read, to raise and appropriate $400,000 to be placed in the Highway Department Building Capital Reserve Fund, please raise your hand. If you're in favor. All those opposed, please raise your hand.
Thanks, good morning.
The article does not carry 50 to 21. All right. Article 9, quick discussion, all right? Selectmen were here to listen to it and listen to what your wishes were, and they could manage accordingly. Article 9, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be added to the Highway Department Building Capital Reserve Fund. Majority vote required. This is recommended by the Budget Committee and recommended by the Board of Selectmen. Do I hear a motion to approve the article as read?
I'll approve the
Second.
Mary Knapp. Mary Knapp.
And the name for the second?
Joe Lansing.
Move to vote.
All right, John, do you want to talk about this at all?
The only difference between this one and the previous one, besides the amount, is that this one comes from taxation. The previous one would have come from unassigned fund balance.
And
Previously
Roxanne,
paid
any
taxes.
comments? No? All right. Questions or comments about Article 9?
What's it for?
Ready to vote?
What is it for?
Okay, Ken?
Mrs. Krewell brought up a point about, doing something for free and all that. Just want to make a note. The way the process worked with the school was that we sought out and selected an architect, Marnie's architect, and they don't do highway garages, they do public schools. And they did a lot of them. And the way the process worked was that they went forward with a conceptual design, and what that did is it provided a floor plan for people to look at in the community. And that's what was provided when we went to the vote. They also provided an estimate. They did that for free. And to follow up on what someone said, that nobody does anything for free, you're right. It was free, but it wasn't. Because what the process was that if it passed the voters, they were already on board by an agreement to provide the full design at a specific rate or fee. So that's what a lot of AE firms will do. I don't know if they'll do it with a project of this size or not. I'm not sure. But some of them have done it, they specialize in it. They may go forward and say they may have a boilerplate, they may have an understanding about small communities. So that's a possibility that the selectors could find something to do.
Okay, thank you. So let's go ahead and vote on Article 9. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be added to the Highway Department Building Capital Reserve Fund. Majority vote required. This is recommended by the Budget Committee and recommended by the Board of Selectmen. All those in favor of Article 9 as read signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Nay. Raise their hands again. All those in favor of Article 9 as read, please raise your hand. In favor.
This is from taxes.
I want clarification what this for.
All those opposed, signify by raising your hand. No fear raising your hand both times. The article carries 38 to 36. Recount. Recount.
Can we just get a question? No, it's a question. What it's for and how much is in the reserve
All right.
now?
Article 10.
That's the 3,000. Thank you.
To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $200,000 for the purpose of road construction and paving of various town roads in town. This is a non-lapsing appropriation pursuant to RSA 32:76 and will not lapse until December 31st, 2023, whichever is sooner. A majority vote is required. It's recommended by the Budget Committee and recommended by the Board of Selectmen. Do I hear a motion to approve Article 10 as read? As Roger Mays, Janet Kellogg. All right, so John or Rick, do you want to say anything about this?
Same amount that we've appropriated in the past. Rick, without a definite answer, depends on many items, but do you have any roads in mind for this upcoming summer?
Guys, can't hear.
Not much left through the Ridge Road. And New Portsmouth Hill, we've kind of lost a lot of that over the last 18 years since that's been tended to. So the other thing you understand is pavement when I started was $27.50 a ton. Today it's $73.50 a ton. So 200,000.
Wow.
We're not rolling far.
Wow.
All right, thank you, Rick. Questions or comments on Article 10?
Move Article 10.
Vote.
What's that?
Decide which road.
Who decides which road?
The highway manager.
Rick makes the
Makes
recommendation.
sense.
Yeah.
He does them.
Will we be chip sealing?
The only chip seal road that's got minor crack in it over here on the Ridge Road. If you look at the Ridge Road and the Portsmouth Road and Pheasant Drive, actually, those are beyond a chip seal for you. It is cheaper to do that. It's like roofing when you move, basically. That's what I'm structurally sound and they need to begin with.
All right, do you have a question? Go ahead.
That 200,000 is really going to go as far as we'd like it to go. I realize this is kind of like pie in the sky. How much money would you really like to see that for?
All right, let's move to
Good call.
So the question was, how much do you really want? Rick declined to go there.
Thank you, Rick.
I think we've gone through that process with the selectmen and the budget committee and the budget hearing. That's where they have those kind of conversations. Yes, go ahead.
Hey, I'm another old lady in North Hampton as well. But we have a capital reserve fund, correct? That you're trying to take, they wanted to take $4,000 from.
$400,000. Yeah.
To put towards, looking at this new building. Can we do an amendment to take money from our reserve fund or to take that $200,000?
So the question was whether money could be taken from a capital reserve fund for a different purpose. And the answer is no.
Okay.
There is a way, if you look at your capital reserve funds in advance of town meeting, that you can repurpose them, you can vote to repurpose them, you can vote to get rid of them, you can do lots of things. But you can't do that today. You would have to do that in advance, put it on the warrant, so everybody who cared about that can use come here and talk about it and vote about it. All right? Any other comments or questions on Article 10? Yes, Randy?
I want to move to vote.
Thank
Move to
you.
vote. You ready to vote on Article 10? Yeah.
Randy Talent, go.
All right, so Article 10, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $200,000 for the purpose of road construction and paving of various roads in town. It's a non-lasting appropriation pursuant to RSA 32:76, will not last until December 31st, 2023, whichever is sooner. All those in favor of Article 10 as read, signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? The article carries.
Go, Rick, go.
All right, Article 11, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,000 to be placed in the Highway Department Vehicle Capital Reserve Fund. Majority vote required. Is recommended by the Budget Committee and recommended by the Board of Selectmen. Do I hear a motion to approve Article 11 as read?
Jan Plaska, I move the motion is read.
Keith Dennis and Janet Hodgson. John, did you want to talk about this?
Yes.
2 comments. Remember, this is for vehicles, not the building.
Right.
Second, how much is in capital reserve right now?
Capital reserve is $10,296.81.
Okay. Thank you.
Rick, given the lifespan of our equipment, even if we put this in, making it roughly 15,000, that's not enough to buy a piece of equipment. It's just a savings account to help build it up until we do need one, so it's not as much of a shock for the tax. Thank you.
Barely enough to feed the horse.
Move to vote.
All right, any other questions or comments? Ready to vote on Article 11? Thank you.
Article 11, move to vote.
Article 11, all right. Article 11, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,000 to be placed in the Highway Department Vehicle Capital Reserve Fund. All those in favor of Article 11 as read, signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? The article carries by voice vote. Article 12, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be added to the milfoil invasive aquatic species capital reserve fund established for the purpose of treating exotic milfoil and other exotic aquatic weeds. Majority vote is required. This is recommended by the Budget Committee and recommended by the Board of Selectmen. Do I hear a motion to approve this article as read?
Questions?
Roger, and I see Carol Vida.
What's the last name?
All right, John, did you want to talk about this?
Yes. This is to control milfoil at Sunrise Lake, which is certainly a valuable asset, not just for the people who live around the lake, but the entire town. They all have access to the lake, and the milfoil control is needed to keep the lake from being overrun with milfoil. How much is in the capital reserve now?
$8,620.91.
How much is it?
There, 10,000 would bring it up high enough to do a newer type of treatment, would be about 16,000, and we're hoping it would last for 2 years instead of the annual. All right?
Yeah, Sheila.
Just a quick question. I'm not on the Lake Association, so I have no knowledge of what I'm asking. Those of you who are, would better answer it probably here. So does any of the money for this come from those that actually are residents of the Lake Association?
Yes.
And if so, how much? Thank
Keep in
you.
mind that when there's a difference between an association versus the village district.
Okay.
Which one are you talking about?
Well, I'm not sure.
Whichever one
the
that you
answer
like.
matters, John. This
Right.
is, everyone pays an equal share of this, including everyone who has real estate
Because I
on the
know they
lake.
get accessible
The difference would
deeds.
be, if you own land on the lake, it presumably is valued, assessed much higher than land, building not on the lake, so presumably you would pay a higher share.
Right.
All right, other questions or comments? Yes, Carol?
I know. How does that? Be quiet.
Please, go ahead, Carol.
If you look into it, there are 8 other lakes that have been using it, and it should go for a good 2 years. The other thing is, we have a divers permit, we started years ago, probably 2008, 2009. When the divers come in, they would charge us $1,000 each time they came in. However, now it's gotten to the point where the milfoil has spread. And they're coming in, it's costing us like $7,000, $10,000, when they're coming in for even more than that for the year, in the summertime. We need our lake, we have, we have fish out there. We also check it later on for, chemicals in there, make sure there's no E. coli, so people can go swimming, their fish and
But this is specific for milfoil, right?
Yes.
Right.
We'll hear them shortly too. They come back every year, they start family, they have babies here in the lake. So there is a reason why. We decided we wanted to try the milfoil. So what we're doing the herbicide for the milfoil. However, it's going to cost us $14,090. So what we're doing is, we're asking for the $10,000, we don't want to, we've got some money in the milfoil fund, but not that much, we don't want to use it all. And the state will pay for the other $4,000, so it will cost us $10,000 for the herbicide.
All right, thank you. Did you have a question or comment, sir? No, okay. Other questions or comments? Yes.
Hi, Judy Larrabee. I live on Pinkham Road on the lake. We went to a meeting over this, my husband and I. And the herbicide is non-toxic. It only kills the milfoil. It will not affect any of your animals or children or anybody in the water. I do believe there is like a 24-hour time span that you should not be in the water, and the signs will be posted, and the internet will be carrying things too. The milfoil is out of control, and eventually what's going to happen is, because it's a shallow body of water, you will end up with a swamp. And I know I'm prejudiced because I am on that lake, but other people use it, and I think it's just a responsible thing at this stage that we need to do.
All right, got 3 hands up. We'll start with Ken.
Well, like the lady just said, she mentioned she's a little prejudiced. Well, likewise, I'm prejudiced too. I don't live on the lake, and I would recommend we approve this because the $10,000, if this place turns into a swamp down there, we're gonna end up having to pay to get this all remediated at some point. There's gonna be cost shift the property taxes to those of us who don't live on it. So $10,000, I vote we move this question.
Yeah.
John or Randy?
I'm going to say the same thing Ken just said. Even if you don't live on the lake, we lose that lake, you think your taxes are bad now, wait until we don't have lakefront.
Exactly, I'm doing that comments.
All right, John?
You know, I live on the lake, and I'm not one of the millionaires who live on lake. I'm talking to just like you guys. I appreciate all the support. The extra taxes that the lakefront people have go to pay the dam to keep the lake. And they keep the town afloat. So I make business. but without the lake in the town, it will be dried up.
Can we move to vote?
We'll see article.
Pay more taxes.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I was trying
All
to
right, ready to vote? Okay, we're gonna vote. Article 12. Article 12, to see that the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be added to the milfoil invasive aquatic species capital reserve fund established for the purpose of treating exotic milfoil and other exotic aquatic weeds. Recommended by the Budget Committee, recommended by the Selectmen. All those in favor of Article 12 as read signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? The article carries by voice vote. Article 13, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $3,000 to be added to the data and equipment capital reserve fund. Majority vote required. It is recommended by the Budget Committee and recommended by the Board of Selectmen. Do I hear a motion to approve Article 13 as read?
I'll make a motion. Mary Knapp?
I second it, Janet Hotchkiss.
Thank you, Joe. Do you want to speak to this?
Yeah, basically, our computers and all the stuff we have within the town for the internet and what have you. We've been into a contract with another company that is providing everything for us now. And at some point, we're gonna have to upgrade our server because it's not, it's older.
I'll pay it.
Huh?
I'll pay it.
No. So this is basically just to have, it's like buying a car and stuff like that. We're putting money into it, so when it happens like the bill, we have the money there to go with. So, last year, we had $3,000 and we have a current balance of $541 left in it, so.
Okay, other questions or comments on Article 13?
Move the vote.
Ready to vote?
Ready to vote.
Okay, Article 13, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $3,000 to be added to the data and equipment capital reserve fund as recommended by the Budget Committee and recommended by the Board of Selectmen. All those in favor of Article 13 as read signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? The article carries by voice vote. Article 14, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be added to the reevaluation capital reserve fund. Majority vote required, recommended by the Budget Committee and recommended by the Board of Selectmen. Do I hear a motion to approve Article 14 as read?
Janet Hotchkiss, I approve it as read.
Roger Beggs, I'll second.
All right, Joe, you have anything you want to say about this?
Yeah, every 5 years, we have to have a full town evaluation. We all know we just went through one. Not happy about it, but before the school was built, we had one, and now we just had one, so what's happened in the meantime? The school was built, so that adds value to the town, and so the evaluation went up. So basically, we put $10,000 because they do 25% of the town each year, and at the 5th year, they do the full town, which is about $50,000, so basically that allows us to pay for that. The same amount every year.
Okay, yes, Jan.
On behalf of the Capital Reserve Fund and the trustees, we have $3,839.37 currently in Capital Reserve Fund, which is not in it.
All right, so 3,800 is currently in this fund. Other questions or comments? Vote? Okay. Article 14, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be added to the reevaluation capital reserve fund. All those in favor of Article 14 as read signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? The article carries by voice vote. Article 15, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $12,500 for the purpose of purchasing 5 Motorola APX 4000 digital radios. Majority vote is required. It is recommended by the Budget Committee and recommended by the Board of Selectmen. Do I hear a motion to approve Article 15 as read?
I'll make a motion. Mary Knapp?
Second?
I'll second it.
Roger Mann, okay. Joe, did you want to speak to this?
Yeah, and I'll pass it over to the chief afterwards, but basically, the chief was here a few years ago. He went and got a grant, and we had received a bunch of radios. Nothing's been purchased since then. And these radios are the old analog ones. They're at the point where they cannot be rebuilt. They don't have parts for them, they're antiquated, they're analog, everything now is going digital. So basically, in the last year, we have slowly purchased a couple of radios here and there out of the budgets, with money on equipment lines and that sort of thing. But I think at this point, with these 5, that should give us, I think, 10 good operating radios. And that would sort of be a pretty good start where we're at, so.
Anything to add?
One of the things that we do, we bought 2 of them last year, we got another 3 plus these. It'll put it on a rotating schedule, because what ended up happening before is the radios that we have gotten through grants before had just gotten to their end of life. When we went to go have one repaired, came back to Motorola and says they can't even, they're so old they can't even get repaired. So with these ones, we want to try to keep it on a rotating basis. 5 years from now, 6 years, 7 years, whatever it is, we can turn 2 of them in while they're still working, worth something for a trade-in value, and then we just keep them on a rotating schedule so we don't get hit like this in the future.
Yes, Ronnie?
Is it gonna be in coincide with the FirstNet, or your radio's gonna tie into that FirstNet that we're doing throughout the country?
Well, the FirstNet is a separate entity. So the FirstNet eventually will go with, because we met with them last week.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, we sat down and actually were able to meet with them. So they're 2 separate things.
So you're gonna have a different one.
Correct.
All right, any other questions? Yeah, Sheila?
Just a quick question, is there any kind of warranty on these, or any kind of period that you know that you're covered?
This is like a 1-year warranty.
3 years.
But 3 years.
3 years?
3 years.
Thank you. Move to.
Other questions or comments?
Oh,
Yes.
The radios we have now, they're functional, they work?
No, not always.
They're
No,
analogs.
we've been at multiple scenes where they die.
Now,
The battery life on them.
$12,000 for 5 radios, $25 a piece. That's average?
Yeah.
That's cheap on that.
Because of what these things do, the range, the amount of.
So we have 9 miles, so you can't be too far away.
Well, depending on the terrain too. You know, the terrain up here is pretty good.
Yes, Janet?
Bill, I wanted to ask a question. With those same radios, if you have to go help another town out like Wilkesboro,
Yeah.
would you take those radios there as well?
Absolutely.
And where there's mountains and so on,
Well,
probably would work better, you know?
It all depends on the
keep
way of the
having
rain.
radios?
But we can communicate basically with anybody in the state.
Oh, within the state?
Yeah.
All right, other questions? I'm surprised nobody asked whether these radios are getting a raise. 3
It has 3-year warranties, didn't it?
Article 15, to see if the town will vote to raise. All right, you ready to vote on this?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I interrupted. Article 15, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $12,500 for the purpose of purchasing 5 Motorola ATX 4000 digital radios. As recommended by the Budget Committee and the Board of Selectmen. All those in favor of Article 15 as read signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Article 15 carries by voice vote. Article 16, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $8,762 for the purpose of purchasing 1 MSA Evolution 6000 Plus thermal imaging camera. Majority vote required. Recommended by the Budget Committee and recommended by the Board of Selectmen. Do I hear a motion to approve Article 16 as read?
I'll make the motion. Mary Knapp.
Back there, your name? You get that? Her name back there? Let's get as many people involved as possible. Good. All right. Joe, are you going to talk about this?
I know very little about it, other than the fact that we have one that's not functional. So I'm gonna turn it over to the chief, because he has all the details on it.
All right. Go ahead.
So this is the original one that we had. We got it from a grant back in 2006, 2007 from a FEMA grant. The problem with this one, well, we use this for chimney fires, electrical problems, search and rescue, structure fires, many different things. It leaves, like if you can look at somebody with it like this, you move it like this, their image is still on the screen. So it gives you a false reading of someone being in a different spot in the room. It also, part of the screen starts to go blank after 30 seconds or so. So it's no longer usable. This one right here, now granted, we've had that for about 12 years. A lot of usage, we use that a lot. This one here does a little bit more capabilities. One of the things that this can also do, and I'll be more than happy to show anybody after the meeting on this, we can use it for search and rescue. We can use it for everything that the other one is used for, as well as even at nighttime. Someone goes in at the lake, there's a setting on this, you can look at it, you can see a hole in the ice because of the temperature differences. So if it's at nighttime, you can look out. If someone goes, oh, I heard somebody out on the ice, I don't hear them anymore. We can look out and see things like that. PD has used it in the past. Someone's ran away from a stop or whatever. We looked at it. It's a really neat piece of equipment. Like I said, more than happy to show anyone. But
All right, other questions or comments about Article 16? Ready to vote? Okay. Article 16, to see if the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $8,762 for the purpose of purchasing one MSA Evolution 6000 Plus thermal imaging camera. Is recommended by the Budget Committee and the Board of Selectmen. All those in favor of Article 16 as read, signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
The article carries by voice vote. Article 17, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,000 to be added to the self-contained breathing apparatus capital reserve fund. The majority vote required. This is recommended by the Budget Committee, recommended by the Board of Selectmen. Do I hear a motion to approve Article 17 as read?
So moved. Joanne Kosky. Alan Wood.
Thank you very much. Joe, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, we already have the apparatus, we voted on it, we spent $25,000 on it last year, and we have the equipment. So now, because we don't want to get the same predicament years from now, that we just didn't have to spend $25,000, we want to put $5,000 in the fund, so we build up the nest egg, so when we have to replace these ones, it won't be so much of a big hit.
Yes, Janet.
Currently, we have $20,242.16 in the self-contained breathing apparatus capital reserve fund.
Other questions or comments? Yes, John.
Yes, how many breathing apparatuses and how old are they?
they're only a couple years old now.
Roger?
Chief, does those, you gonna rotate those all at once, or you gotta do them a little bit?
We can try to rotate the same deal, so that we're not getting caught once again after that.
Could you explain what's new on that harness that you guys got? On the breathing apparatus?
We have two different styles. So we've got the one that's, you've got a regular system where all the gauges are right. We have one manual gauge here, but also in the face pieces of the ones that we use, there's a heads-up display that tells us how much air is left inside of that mask. So you can look right inside of it. We also have a voice amplifier on the side of them. If you've ever seen some of the old ones that was just the mask, it was very, very difficult to even communicate to the person next to you because everything was muffled. These new voice amplifiers, I can talk. Scotty can hear me in the back of the room pretty much clear as day. We're also able to get, working through prices with a salesman, we have two air packs that actually have a thermal imaging camera built into the face piece. So as you're crawling around, doesn't take the place of this, by the way. You can look and see what's going on inside it. We only have two of them.
All right, other questions or comments? Yes, Joanne.
There may be one or two people in here that don't know all of the reasons for having one of these devices. Maybe you could explain a little bit about some of the environments that you work in.
Oh, just between you're talking about the breathing apparatus?
Yes.
Okay, so just between the structure fires themselves, carbon monoxide calls, we get called to several of those during the course of the year. You don't want to go into a carbon monoxide alarm without some form of protection. Car fires, electrical car fires,
Hazardous chemicals?
hazard, yep.
Okay. Randy, let me guess.
Everything you do is a hazard. Thanks for the parade and Christmas and
Yeah.
move the vote.
Second it. Randy,
I'm
tell
gonna
me
take that as an indication you want to vote. Article 17, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,000 to be added to the self-contained breathing apparatus capital reserve fund, as recommended by the Budget Committee and the Board of Selectmen. All those in favor of Article 17 as read signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, thank you very much. Article 18, we're getting there. Article 18, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be placed in the Fire Department Addition Capital Reserve Fund. Majority vote required. Recommended by the Budget Committee and recommended by the Board of Selectmen. Do I hear a motion to approve Article 18 as read?
Jennifer, I was gonna say approve as read.
I'll second it, Mary Knapp.
How much is in it now?
All right. Joe, are you going to talk to this?
Do you want to know how much is in there?
Yeah, Jan, how much got in there now?
Okay, so what I wanted to tell you was, thank you for asking, we have $52,362.05 currently in the capital reserve fund.
And again, every year we put $10,000 in, so on the pretense at some point we're gonna be doing something different with the fire department. So this is just the money available, so we make that change, we'll have it there.
You mean for equipment?
No.
Just
Building.
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 Other questions? Yes, sir.
This money that we're putting in every year, is it staying in the fund or is it possibly getting taken out to?
Nothing's been spent since it started.
And so on.
The question was whether it's being spent or whether it's staying in the fund.
Or is it allowed
The
to
answer
be?
was it's staying in the fund. Other questions or comments? Ready to vote? Okay. Article 18, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be placed in the Fire Department Addition Capital Reserve Fund. Recommended by the Budget Committee and the Board of Selectmen. All those in favor of Article 18 as read signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Article 18 is carried by voice vote. Article 19, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,000 to be added to the Natural or Man-Made Disasters Capital Reserve Fund. Majority vote required. Recommended by the Budget Committee and recommended by the Board of Selectmen. Do I hear a motion to approve Article 19 as read? I see Mr. Sindor and Jenna Hotchkiss. John, were you going to talk about this?
Within the last week or two, there was a huge storm that started down in Alabama. Tornadoes, 23 people died. That storm has moved up through all of the East Coast. Yesterday we got a little rain. We were lucky. One of these days, we're not going to be so lucky. How much is in the capital reserve fund?
$12,280.13.
If you look at the damage in Alabama, that amount of money is not going to go very far, but it's enough to get some drinking water. Okay, maybe a couple of tents. That'll be about it.
All right, questions or comments on Article 19?
Move to vote.
Ready to vote? Okay. Article 19, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,000 to be added to the Natural and Man-Made Disasters Capital Reserve Fund, as recommended by the Budget Committee and the Board of Selectmen. All those in favor of Article 19 as read, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Article 19 carried. Article 20, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $4,000 for the purpose of researching the feasibility of hiring a town administrator. Majority is vote required, not recommended by the Budget Committee, recommended by the Board of Selectmen. Do I hear a motion to approve Article 20 as read?
I'll move.
I have Roger Maines. Second, Bonnie Gagnon. I'm sorry. I should get this right.
Like Canyon with a G?
All right, you got it right. Bonnie Gagnon. least I can do. Sign respect to your name. All right, so I have a motion to approve and seconded. John, did you want to speak to this?
Yes. The selectmen look at the job we're doing and wondering if it could be done better. There are day-to-day things that we work on, but there's a lot of far-reaching things like visions for the future, grants that never seem to get worked on because there's not enough time. We're lucky to have Laura Parker, who goes way above and beyond her job to help us research some of these. At one point, the selectmen considered putting a warrant article on here about hiring one. We decided against that, thinking, well, here's some money to perhaps study whether the town wants one or not. So the purpose is to see what your interest is in having a town administrator, all right?
All right, questions or comments? Yes, Ms. Taylor.
And who's gonna vet the company that comes in to do the feasibility study?
Who's good? No one. We haven't done anything yet. This is
I said,
this is-
who is going to vet the company that you bring in? How are you gonna determine what company, this is going out to bid, or are you just gonna hire somebody?
We're not gonna hire anyone. My intent behind this is to see if the town would even profit from having a town administrator.
Right.
If
You're
it's a
talking
yes,
about-
then we would go next year with a more detailed
But you're not
procedure.
answering my question, John.
Okay.
You wanna bring a company in to do the feasibility study.
No,
Who's gonna do
no.
the feasibility
He
study?
doesn't.
I would expect that the selectmen would visit some other towns that have town administrators, get an idea of whether this is even worthwhile. But mostly, before we expend a lot of energy and up to $4,000, is there any interest from the town?
All right,
If not, we'll do something else.
I've got a lot of hands up. I'm going to start over here, and we'll work our way around.
Memory escapes me. How long ago did we have a town administrator?
8
Does
years.
anyone remember? 8 years. Okay.
And Ken?
I'm confused about, we're being asked to appropriate $4,000 for a purpose of researching, but I kind of want to follow up with Jan's question. Who is going to be the recipient of those funds? Who's getting the money?
What's its purpose?
It's a rather simple answer. I'm thinking if we need to travel somewhere to talk with the town, this would help pay for travel expenses. I'm not looking to hire you, doing it great work.
Give me $4,000, I'll tell you no.
I would just like to point out that the vote for this, for the selectmen, was 2 against 1, and John Mullen is no longer selectman, so now, John, you are the lone yes vote. Just heads up for people.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Then I'll get to you, Laura. Go ahead.
I don't think that we need to spend $4,000 to study for a town administrator. I think what the town needs is someone to help Laura take some of her stuff off her plate and help her.
All right, Laura, go ahead.
I just want to be clear, the vote from the board was 2 to 1, with 2 for, 1 against, and there would be a company, because Mullen researched before he left, several different ones, to come in and search our town and do the study for us to see if it was a need to have a town administrator.
So again, who's gonna vet them?
So there was several companies, I'm assuming they would put it up to bid and keep it under the allotted amount.
So the answer to your
If it
question,
comes in too high.
Janet, this process would be, fall under the purview of the selectmen.
We've had that before, that's why we don't have.
Go ahead.
So now I'm confused, because the town secretary is saying there will be a company, but our selectmen are saying there won't be. Because they weren't actually involved in the warrant article, John Mullen was, and he actually spoke to different companies already, that's how I know, because I was involved.
Okay. Yes, in the back.
So why do we need $4,000? We don't.
So, yes. So the question was, we had a town administrator, why do we need one now? Is that your question? Yes. Do you want to address that at all?
I was not selected when the town administrator was here. I can only check various towns. Let's see. Wolfboro just fired their town administrator. Wakefield is having problems. There's another town nearby that says, it's like pros and cons on both sides.
All right. Hang on, folks, we're almost done. Now we got to one. All right, Ms. Taylor, you have your hand up, go ahead.
Okay, 8 years ago, we had a town administrator. Up on the lake area, on the backside of the lake where I live, we had a big drainage problem. And we wanted it fixed. So I did all the legwork, went to DES. We could have borrowed $195,000 from the state revolving fund and would have only had to pay half of it back. I brought everything back to Tony at the time. He sat on it and sat on it. Screwed us out of half of that money. We had to take that money from the bank and pay the whole thing back. I worked with DRA. I got that guy out of here. I got him fired, got the position eliminated, and got the money gone from the budget. I don't want to go through that again.
All right. On to the comments on Article 20. Are you ready to vote, John? Would you like to?
Yeah, one thing is if we're gonna check the employee, we need to check on the cost because we hire low experience or even a retired, like we did in the past. We need to get our value.
Yeah.
And then of course costs will go up because salaries go up.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, Carol.
The only thing I can say is if you do have a town administrator, and I've seen it before when we lived before, they will be above everybody, above the selectmen, they'll see what's going on.
I don't think that's quite right. It would be an employee, someone overseen by the selectmen.
Right.
That's what I meant, okay.
Move the vote.
All right, yes, sir.
If you do hire a town administrator, then we don't need a fire chief, we don't need a police chief to tell us.
Oh, no,
Each department head has to exist.
So I'm not sure that's, right, okay, go ahead, Joe.
I'm the guy who said I don't think we need to do this, I'm a selectman for a reason, okay, and I think that's our job. But, having said that, we're all part-time, we have lives, we all work, we have things we have to do. So we can't be down here every moment or every day. We come here, at least one of us go in there every day, or two of us every day, to make sure things are okay, all right? There are a lot of old policies that are not updated, and they're old for a reason, because nobody has the time to sit down and do the diligence and put the work in to bring them up to standards, okay? So, in my mind, we could probably subcontract somebody for a lot less money to come in here as a project, do it once, get it done, and bring it all up to date, and we won't have that problem, okay? That's the easier way to do it, and that way we don't have to have part-time, full-time, whatever. We don't have the need for it, I mean, I don't see it, so.
All right, thank you. One last comment?
So the job will not stay in the town hall, you'll get someone to do it.
It doesn't exist.
Okay, go ahead and clarify what you meant.
I'm just saying, instead of having a town administrator, the problems that we have to bring things up to date, we can always subcontract somebody to do that as a project for one fee and be done with it completely. Instead of having someone full part-time doing it.
You don't have money in the budget to do that this year.
No, we have no money in the budget.
You're not proposing that, that you're proposing is that you could consider that option in the future. All right. So, are we ready to vote? Yes. Yeah? Okay. We're going to vote on Article 20, to see if the town raise or appropriate the sum of $4,000 for the purpose of researching the feasibility of hiring a town administrator. Not recommended by the Budget Committee, recommended by the Board of Selectmen. All those in favor of Article 20 signify by saying aye. All those opposed?
Nice trick.
All those opposed? The nays have it, Article is not carried.
Article 21.
Article 21.
Business.
To transact any other business that may legally become come before this meeting? I see several hands up. Yes, Sheila.
The gentleman we're talking about, why we had to have the fee for getting rid of our garbage and waste and stuff like that, and I think that's right and fair. My only concern is I think we need to post signs on both enter and exit the town Middleton boundaries and have some sort of in place penalty violation fees for people that are doing such things as leaving and dumping from other communities into our area. I'd like to see some sort of town signs posted, because I saw it actually at my neighbors when they weren't here. People came and pulled up with their car and dumped a ton of trash right in their house. So I'm just saying, we can post it so they know there's gonna be a penalty.
So that's a good suggestion, that's something that, hang on folks, let's finish up here.
And the second part of that is I just want to reiterate what I said before. We can find a way to, not all of it, but some of the money that is surplus and additional go back to the taxpayers.
Good. So the issue that we were talking about signing up would be a municipal ordinance, and the selectmen have the authority to pursue that. They can take it up to the selectmen. Ken, you have your hand up.
But if we pull them over, they said we didn't know. We said you got a penalty. It's
I need quiet, please. Thank you. Go ahead, Ken.
I know we talked to Bill Lawrence about this a while back. I look at these articles, it's administrative comments. I look at Article 15, which is relative to the communications to the fire department. I look at the thermal imaging, and I look at self-contained breathing apparatus. These are all like core equipment elements. I know we ran into a problem years ago with a self-contained breathing apparatus that firefighters didn't have the equipment. Just wonder if any kind of consideration could be made that the fire chief or his staff could come up with an idea of long-term costs for regular replacement and updating of this equipment, but for things like this and perhaps other pieces of equipment. So we're not looking at these individual warrant articles, writing down a model number of a thermal imaging camera. I mean, I don't mind hitting for leads on things, but I know Bill's available to answer questions. Just kind of want to, I just look at it as kind of fundamental stuff. Long-term plan, so we have regular, consistent expenditures, so we can spread out our costs evenly across every year. It's not going to be perfect, I know. These are core fundamental pieces of equipment. And I think about the thermal imaging, and one piece I did hear you say about it is that from a command standpoint, you get firefighters in an active fire, you know where they are. And I think that's a real important piece of it all, because they're volunteering to do this type of thing. And I think your expenditure line is $62,000. I don't think you can get a more conservative budget than any other. So if you just think about aggregating everything together, we may consider repurposing the apparatus, the breathing apparatus that was replaced all firefighter equipment relative to life safety. I think you should consider something.
Just don't overdo.
Okay, thank you, Ken. And I know Joanne has something.
I don't know if any of you have noticed in the town office, but there is a box to the right of the entrance. It's labeled for donations for the scholarship fund. This is a scholarship committee that would select a high school graduate from Kingswood. We've gone to the effort of having school here, sending our kids to a great school. We've got an answer after that. So the scholarship would be used for students whether they are pursuing academic or careers afterwards. It's not happy.
I didn't have time to bake, so I came here.
A completely honest way of giving these kids a chance to do something beyond high school. And if, we've got like 700 households, I think, or maybe almost 800 households in Middleton. Just $1 each. Just $1 each. That's all I'm asking. If you stop by there and put in $1, we'd really, really appreciate it. We've got assistance from the fire department, from the venture crew, from the Old Home Association, from a couple of the businesses in town. And I'm asking people to step up, please, just $1, that's all I'm asking, to give our kids a real future after high school. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne.
All right. Got several hands up. I'm going to go back to Laura. We'll work our way forward.
I just wanted to know if the board wanted to mention the trash thing, so you can get the people's opinion at the next meeting with Waste Management.
Change the days. The
The changing of the day.
Oh, the day. Oh,
I don't know if now is a good time.
Nice job, Laura.
So, okay, so the recommendation is that we get some sort of poll here on how many people think trash should stay on Tuesday. Raise your hand. Trash pickup. I see 2 or 3. How many people think it's okay to change, what, do we know what day we change?
Friday.
Friday, change to Friday. How many people think that would be okay? Let me try that again. I got very little participation. Let's try by voice vote. Let's try by voice vote. All those.
Excuse me,
Wait a minute.
I just wanted to raise a point on that I think might come in handy, especially out around the lake where there's a lot of more seasonal people. Is that means that people only on the weekends, their trash will sit there all week in the sun until it gets picked up instead of Tuesday.
All right, Joe, go ahead.
At the last Board of Selectmen meeting, we invited Waste Management to come up. And they reached out to us and asked us, because we're the only single town that they have that they can do all the pickup in one day, okay? And they asked because of their personnel issues and stuff like that, if we would mind changing from a Tuesday pickup to a Friday pickup. We also raised those same concerns that, okay, right now it wouldn't be so bad because it's seasonal. But when you have everybody up for the summer, and they take off and go back home on the weekends, they put the trash out on Friday, and they take off. If a truck breaks down, people don't show up to work, what happens? Is there any backup plans? Does that mean our trash will stay in until the following Friday?
Right.
And they're gonna get back to us, and if we do decide to change, what else is in it for us besides just saying go ahead and do it? Can we now maybe go down to Rochester and drop some certain items off at some point where we can't do that now? They're looking at all the reasons, give us a reason why we should do this.
Okay, Dennis.
I think they should split it. Maybe the Lakes region around, they should put it out on a Tuesday where it can be taken care of versus on another part of the town, Friday would be all right.
Okay.
Just try to split it.
Okay, hang on, folks.
Two issues I can think of is one about the holidays, right? I mean, they finally got back to picking it up on Tuesday and just not bothering picking it up. So now, what if it's on Friday? What do we do then? And then also, what I don't understand is we're paying a lot of money for this pickup. We were just told we cannot drop our recycling off at the Rochester Place, which Waste Management manages our trash pickup. So that's a little confusing, and so I'm just trying to figure that one out.
Okay, yes.
The way I understood from Waste Management is that they said they cannot sustain a Tuesday pickup. They do not have the trucks and or the personnel to continue picking up our trash on Tuesday.
This is from Tuesday to Friday.
They want to go to Friday because they have enough people with. Okay. That being said, I understand from the selectmen too that there's really not much of an option for them to do to other towns. If we don't do it to Friday, the contract is coming up, is that correct?
Yes.
So if we don't agree to Fridays, they may not agree to pick up our trash on Fridays or Tuesdays or any day when this contract comes up again.
Okay, up on the stage.
If the trash is left out for another week, for seasonal, trash is gonna go in the lake. We got enough animals in town. It's not the people throwing it in. Raccoons, bears, the cats, they not here, but birds. We're gonna, instead of milfoil, we're gonna have milfoil and trash in that lake. We don't want that.
Also on the stage, your hand up.
I was just going to say, maybe with our contract coming up, I was on the board in Rochester where we use Waste Management. Our contract came up and we actually had a whole bunch of other companies reach out to us. We specifically went with Triano, and we actually had a significant cost difference.
Okay.
They were very good.
Good, yes.
They did address the holidays, your holiday would be Saturday.
Other comments about trash? Yes, yes.
Pick up the trash as long as they pick it up.
All right, yes.
I live in Lakeland, I agree. Trash left overnight is a mess by the next day when animals get into it. So vacationers go away and it's sitting there for a whole week, forget it. Our neighbors are gonna clean it up.
Okay, yes. Right, okay. All right, just like, okay, go ahead, yeah?
Just thinking out loud.
Hang on, folks, let's let everybody talk.
Thinking out loud, if there is a real need for it to be switched on Friday, and the main concern is not all of us year round, but it's the seasonal trash, is there any way they would provide us a dumpster that can only for the summer. In exchange for that,
All right. Have you gotten enough feedback on that issue to help in negotiations with waste management? All right. Have you talked this out enough? Are there any other comments? We've got 2 more hands up. Go ahead.
Just kind of
Hang on,
piggybacking.
folks.
Just piggybacking onto what he had said about they had other companies coming to discuss it. I don't know what there are for other companies around here, but if they had several offers from Rochester, we're not that far. Maybe we do need another company, just from looking at the groups, the comments we get on trash not being picked up. Just all the problems we have is if WM's not the only option.
Okay. And
budget it out.
One selectman meeting recently, I was told there was an ordinance regarding trash to begin with, that it is supposed to be in bags, in barrels, with a cover. People aren't doing it. Right, it needs to be in
All right. Ken.
Are we done with that trash discussion?
No, I don't think we are. Dennis, if you have...
Yeah, just put it out for bid.
Okay, and Bill.
Okay, so basically, a few years ago, on the last contract with Waste Management, one of our former selectmen, said he had knowledge of other people in the business who would probably get us a better deal. He went out to get bids, secure bids. Nobody bid on it. Waste Management caught wind of it, and they upped our price. And at that point, we were up we had like a month to make a decision. We had nobody coming in, so we ended up paying a higher price on the contract for our current contract. Okay, we reduced that money. We had a 3-year or 5-year. The cheapest of the 2 was a 5-year contract. So when it comes out, we will be putting out a bid again.
Yeah, do you have a comment?
Yeah, we got all these summer people who come up in the summer for 2 days, and then go back home and that's stupid. Why can't they keep their own, little bag of garbage they have for 2 days? Get home with it.
All right. Any other comments on trash? Ken, did you have something else? Yeah, go ahead, Ken. We're moving beyond trash.
I know this is non-binding, but I think it should be recognized. We have a young lady over here who volunteers to take the minutes to this meeting. I would like to make a recommendation, maybe by poll, that we provide her a stipend of $100, because she's not just going to be doing the minutes now. After this meeting, she's going to have to compile them, format them, present them, when they go to the
So as Ken mentioned, that wasn't warned, so you can't raise and appropriate money for a purpose that wasn't warned and so forth. But the selectmen, you don't have any extra money in your budget, but you certainly look for ways to acknowledge the hard work.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, it's not that detailed. This is just what he said, the summaries of motions. I didn't do the whole, but thank you.
Thank you.
Hang on.
I would just like to say, I really think, and I think I speak for everybody in the town, really want to thank everybody, whether paid or not paid, for the time and effort they put into this town. And I don't want any of you to think that you're not appreciated, because you really are. Whether we agree with some of the things that you're trying to pass or not, we appreciate your work.
They're gonna still pick up the trash on Tuesday. And they said that they don't have enough trash on.
Yeah, it's a done deal, but I gotta let them know.
The rest of it. Any idea?
Let's split it up.
Say it again.
So we're going back to trash. Perhaps you could ask that question directly to the selectmen. Yes.
I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion
They just made motion to adjourn, I don't know if you have to write that.
Okay. I will in a second, thank you.
So I have a motion on the floor to adjourn. Do I hear a second? Joni Van Gelder, second. All those in favor of adjourning? Aye. Any opposed? Thank
you.
I know Ken Gary made the motion, but I don't know.